Hi, everyone. I'm Marisa Plescia. I am one of the senior chemists at Bell International Laboratories in Eagan, Minnesota.
And I'm Dr. Gabriella Baki. I'm an associate professor and director of the Cosmetic Science program in Toledo.
And Dr. Baki and I wanted to talk a little bit today about both the cosmetic science education and also career pathways that we have in this field. So first and foremost, just want to say we're in a good business. We are really in a good industry. So as we all know, beauty industry is a big business. It's globally huge and it's growing stronger and stronger every year. In 2020, it was valued at $483 billion, and that's projected to grow to $511 billion in 2021, which I guess is kind of over now. But it's really a big business. So congrats. You're in a business that's going to continue to grow. And that's why it's really great to be educated. And also there's so many different career paths that you could take.
And to add to that, I know COVID came and then you might wonder how the business is still doing because it's probably was a prediction before that. The industry is doing strong still during COVID. You might have seen because of the masks that, lipstick sale was down, but then other parts of the industry, eye makeup, eyebrows, skincare, self-care, wellness are really skyrocketing. So overall, the industry is doing very strong, just in case anybody wonders.
Yeah, there is something called the lipstick effect, actually. And I'm sure you guys heard that before in some of your classes, but the lipstick effect is from basically the Great Depression. And what happened there is that is actually what people bought because it was a small luxury. Mm-hmm. And so the personal care industry is always going to be there and it's always going to continue growing and be strong no matter kind of what the economic outlook is at that time.
And wanted to start with an intro to, you might be coming from different areas, different degrees. We wanted to show it to you that cosmetic science is really, as we call it, multidisciplinary, meaning that it has a lot of different components to it. So it's not just a biology degree. It's not just a chemistry degree. It's not just business. It's a combination of a lot of degrees. So depending on where you're coming from, what's your background, it's just like great to touch on a lot of different other aspects as some coursework, as a minor, as a voluntary experience. So even if your school doesn't offer a certain type of course by regulations, if you don't study that as a course, you can still come to the SEC event and listen to a lecture on regulations just to get that component and understand that perspective on the industry. And I have a lot of courses listed here. Probably I did not include all the courses, but just wanted to show it to you that it's a lot of different types of chemistry. You need to understand the chemicals that we work with, how they interact with each other, their solubility, how you create products from those, but also biology. We are putting these products onto the skin, onto the hair, the nails. We apply them to the oral cavity. So you need to understand the function, the normal function of these surfaces. You need to understand the molecular biology, the microbiology, dermatology. So a lot of different perspectives, a lot of basic sciences go into cosmetic science, also hands-on skills. Some schools teach formulation science. Some schools don't necessarily teach it, but yesterday, the SCC, NYSCC organized a Future Chemist workshop where the participants were allowed to and were walked through how to formulate a cream. So you could have those experiences outside school within societies and organizations in the industry. It's also regulations. The cosmetic industry is regulated by the FDA. And there are certain restrictions that the industry has to stick to and understand when it comes to colors, when it comes to a lot of other things. So you just need to understand those perspectives as well. It's also art and creativity. Even if you think of your shampoo has to be aesthetically pleasing. It has to look good for consumers. And that is a lot of arty aspects going into that. And you can learn that again outside, inside school. You can take an art class, you can paint, you can understand how colors mix. It's just good to have those experiences, especially if you want to go down a color chemist aisle. You really need to understand that. Business is very important. It's a business. All of those companies out there, they're trying to sell something, either their products, their ingredients, their services. So you need to understand how to deliver that and how to connect with clients and how to work with your team. And then also there is a lot of other things going in that you could just pick up on. So it's really a complex field, and wherever you're coming from, just make sure that you sort of understand the whole perspective and just try to pick on the pieces that is not being actively offered in your current major. So
And kind of with that, I always like to show this slide, which Dr. Rickett provided me with all these different photos from years and years of lectures. But when you come into cosmetic science, it really is a science, and people don't realize that there is so much that goes into formulating a product. And as Dr. Baki was saying, we have physics, we have pharmacokinetics. There's so much in there. We have proteins, we have diffusion, we have different angle diffractions. With sunscreens, for example, we have to look at it as like molecular orbital theory. It is so complex, and people don't realize at the end of the day that this is a true science, and it is a very complex science as well. And there's a lot of research that goes into that. So kind of at the basics and the basis, what is a cosmetic chemist? What is the role of the cosmetic chemist? And this is what a lot of people think of when they think of cosmetic chemistry, right? So the role of a cosmetic chemist is really to develop formulas based on information and needs given in usually product briefs, right? Companies out there, brands out there, they usually want a product, right? That is what we do. So they provide information on what they want that product to feel like, what they want it to do, what they want it to smell like. They give you that kind of concept. And from there, as a cosmetic chemist, we use advanced and traditional raw materials to create new technologies and textures. And with all of that, what we're doing this whole time and why it's so important to come to an event like New York Suppliers Day is because you want to stay up to date with the trends. You want to stay up to date with the ingredients. You want to learn from your suppliers to develop those desired products. They're launching so many new products out there, so many new ingredients, and it is our job as well to keep up to date with that and know what's out there so we can continue to innovate. But at the end of the day, really, our job is to create efficacious, stable, safe, and aesthetically pleasing formulas. It has to be a combo of all of that, right? If you make a formula and it's not aesthetically pleasing, nobody's going to buy it again. They might buy it once and they'll never buy it again. Obviously, it has to be stable. That's really, really important. Once again, you buy something off the shelves, and you open it up and oil comes out of it. That consumer is not going to buy it again. Safe, obviously, is a big word as well. And efficacious. You have to make sure that it also works. But that's just the cosmetic chemist. But as we've been talking about, there's so many different careers that you could have in this industry. Biologist, microbiologist is a big actually field in this industry. You have to make sure that your products are safe and safe from microorganisms. And that is the role of microbiologist. Biologists also do a lot of research, skincare science. It's really, really important in order to understand how your products are working. Analytical chemistry. That comes a lot actually in the OTC world. With OTCs over the counter, you have to make sure that you have the level of active that's declared. So we have a team of analytical chemists that test that to make sure that that claim level is actually there. Clinical scientists, SPF testing, you have to make sure it's hitting that SPF value. And additionally, other clinical testing as well, making sure those claims sometimes, oh, did it work? Did it not work? You have to have clinical scientists with there. Chemical, process, packaging engineers. Chemistry is obviously very important. And there's so much in terms of chemical engineers that are important in this industry. And especially with contract manufacturing as well, you need to have people that understand processes and are able to scale up from lab to thousands and thousands and thousands of gallons. And that's something that a process engineer would do. Quality control chemists. You have to make sure when you have a product that it's hitting all those specifications that you set forth. And this is always a really interesting topic to talk about because quality control chemist is actually a great way for aspiring cosmetic chemists to get into the field because you're in a lab, you're in a company, and a lot of times you could work your way up if you start as a quality control chemist. Regulatory, which we talked about before. It is a regulated industry no matter what people say out there. So you need to know those different regulations in the US, in Europe, in Asia, etc. Toxicologists as well, making sure that those products are safe. Research scientists. That's actually really big. For example, with all these ingredient suppliers, right? They are doing research to develop and innovate new ingredients. Product development, of course, and that's kind of all related to marketing and bringing products to market for brands. And then Obviously, technical sales as well. Once again, we're at New York Suppliers Day. There are tons of ingredient suppliers out there, and they sell us these products. So you sometimes, well, you always do have to have an idea and some science background in order to sell those products effectively. So there's so many different options and careers in cosmetic science besides just being a cosmetic chemist.
And just going back to that slide a little bit, it makes it challenging to look for jobs and know what to what's the keyword to put in when you're searching for jobs. So you can pick and choose from here, but also if you want to work at the bench formulating, sometimes it's called scientist, sometimes it's called research scientist, sometimes it's R&D chemist. But that's why you have advisors and professors and connections in the industry. You can look at their job titles to see what they're called in the industry, just to get some idea on what the keywords are so that you're looking for. So it makes it a bit more challenging, but we're here to help you as an industry.
And every company is different as well. So that makes it even more challenging. But there are keywords that you could search for if you're interested.
And we wanted to showcase it to you, the types of degrees that you can get. Depending on where you are right now, you could decide if you want to continue your graduate education, or just if you're still in high school, you can sort of look at what kind of degrees do you need. There are all sorts of degrees out there, but it really depends on what you want to do, what type of degree you need. And that's something, talk to your advisors, talk to your professors, talk to the industry experts, and see what do they do and what type of background do they have, or where to recommend you right now to have. So there are bachelor's degrees out there. There are bachelor's in science and bachelor's in art, and you can get all sorts of degrees. There's cosmetic science, there's chemistry, chemical engineering. There are broader pharmaceutical sciences degrees, microbiology, biology, and more. Like I said, referring back to the course slide, you can still build your skill set and make yourself, a better skilled biologist or chemist if you do all those extra voluntary experiences, extra coursework. There are master's degrees out there, master's in science or master's in business administration, in cosmetics, focusing in cosmetic science, chemical engineering. So a lot of similarities between bachelor's and master's level. So you can take it a step further, get a graduate degree. There are degrees in the United States, but there are also degrees abroad that you could go to, and I'm sure we're going to touch on that later. And then there are PhD degrees, which is the highest degree out there. And like if you would like to be a research scientist at a large brand where you're working in a lab, trying to understand certain aspects of the skin or the hair and how different molecules work within the skin, what enzymes are doing, what receptors they're targeting, that's really research scientist, then you might need a PhD degree for that. So again, come to us and tell us what you want and how to get there. And just the numbers in the corner, typically a bachelor's degree would take about 4 years, could be shorter, could be longer, depending on where you're coming from. If you have taken CCP courses in high school, if you are adding on minors to your education. Typically, master's degrees, depends, would be about 2 years if you're doing it full time, could be shorter. If you're doing it part time, could be a little bit longer. Everything depends. If you're looking at PhD, that's more time consuming. That's a longer research study at the bench, most likely. So you're looking at about 4 to 5 years of education adding on to that. So just putting it into perspective.
So I'm taking this slide, so there's no there's no conflict of interest there. But in the past, actually, there wasn't a lot of education for cosmetic chemists. I actually wanted to be a cosmetic chemist since I was 8 years old. And I remember not knowing where to go, because even just 10 years ago, there weren't really any of these programs, but it has continuously grown. So, apologies if I missed one of the programs up here, but this is just kind of a list of what's currently available. So University of Toledo has the only undergrad program, which is great. How long that program is? How old now?
It's about 9 years.
9 years old, right? So it's still relatively new. University of Cincinnati is a very established program for their Masters of Science in Pharmaceutical Science, with an emphasis in cosmetic science. I did go there. And it's a great program as well because it is online and in person. Fairleigh Dickinson has a MS in Cosmetic Science. Long Island University also has an MS in Pharmaceutical Science, Cosmetic Science. So these are master's programs. Manhattan College actually recently now has a bachelor's and a master's in Chemical Engineering for cosmetics. So as well, Rutgers University has a unique Master's of Business and Science in Personal Care Science. So you're getting both the business and the science side of that. FIT, the Fashion Institute of Technology, has a BS in Cosmetic and Fragrance Marketing. Seton Hall actually is another school that is developing a program. And these are in the US, but abroad, there's also a lot of established programs as well. There's the big one is called ASIPCA. I will not say it in French, even though I went there. They have a European Fragrance and Cosmetic Master's program that is a 2-year program, 1 year in France, for basically all your cosmetic and perfume formulation. And then they also, the second year is in Italy, actually, and that's more of a business degree. London College of Fashion has an MSc in cosmetic science. There's lots of schools in Thailand that Dr. Wicked could actually talk to you about as well. There's more schools in even Russia and other Asian countries and France. There's tons of opportunities out there. And it just takes, honestly, a quick internet search to find these programs. And it's so great, actually, because like I said, this is constantly growing and programs are constantly developing because this is a need, right? We need good cosmetic science education. And it's so exciting that everybody is seeing that now and developing programs to help students and to help aspiring cosmetic chemists. Those are more of the formal programs, right? Well, you'll get like a master's, you'll get a degree, but there is also so much opportunity out there for certificates and just extra programs as well if you're just interested in learning a little bit more. Obviously, the main source for this and the best source for this is the Society of Cosmetic Chemists for all continuing education. And even something like this is continuing education. This is great out there to go around to talk to people. You'll learn so much. But the SCC also has obviously lectures online. They have different CEP courses. There's tons of opportunities with the SCC. There's also, and I'm not going to really go by these, but there are tons of different courses that if you're just interested in getting a certificate, just interested in learning more, these are some of them. FIT has a few that are growing. One is called the Beauty Industry Essentials course. You get a certificate from there. So there's tons of opportunities online as well to learn a little bit more about cosmetic science.
And relating back to the previous lecture where we heard about connecting on LinkedIn, there are other things to consider. So having an academic background is important. Having the sciences in many of the jobs is important. Even if you would like to work in sales and marketing, understanding the science side is going to be important because that's what you use to market and sell. But there are other things you need to focus on. Become a member of a professional or many professional organizations. Obviously, you're here, so become an SCC member. The first year is typically free for students. So that's a great incentive for anybody to get involved in any of the 19 chapters. Then you become automatically a member of the IFSCC, which is the International SCC. But there are other organizations like ACS would be the American Chemical Society. So if you're more on the chemist side, you're interested in more, let's say, organic chemistry, that's a great society to be a member of as well. And they do focus every once in a while on more cosmetic personal care related activities, a lot of green chemistry. So that could also be interesting. Join mentor-mentee programs. I know the NYSCC is doing one. The NextGen is working on doing one. Your school student organizations might be involved in some of those activities where they are connecting the current students with alumni or current students with industry experts. So make sure to connect and be part of these programs.
And it doesn't have to be also like an official program. The great thing about mentor and mentorship is that you could just go to somebody, you could learn about them, from them, you can meet somebody out there and you could just talk to them. And that's also giving you a mentor-mentee relationship. So I always say, like, don't be so intense and focused on actually joining one of those programs because mentorship can come from anywhere. So
a lot of times, even with that unplanned. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I have mentors who didn't offer their mentorship. It just sort of happened over the years. And those are great connections, great resources for you to have. And you typically have multiple mentors. You have mentors for technical things. You have mentors for other things. So it's good to have multiple mentors, but you're very right. Also, it's good to know yourself. You know your strengths, you know that you're things that you're really good at, but also things that you can improve upon and know what team to build around you. If people are better at other things, then, they will bring those as a strength and it's going to make a great team to understand yourself. Also boost your resume, become a researcher, do some undergraduate undergraduate or graduate research, even just as a shadowing person, as a volunteer, or sign up for credit, do your honors research, somehow get your hands dirty in the lab and do some research. That means a lot when you go to interviews, even just like knowing how to design studies, even if your research results were not good, but just the whole experience can mean a lot. If you have the opportunity and the financial and time means, do a minor that interests you. You could also just volunteer. The SCC chapters are always looking for student volunteers for social media, for any other things. And it doesn't mean a lot of time commitment, but you could be on the board. You could meet the e-board at those chapters. You could meet them a few times, in a quarter, and just really put your name out there and get more connections. So that's a great way to become more invested in your future. And then network. That's why you're here. So don't be shy. Walk down at the booths and talk to people. They are really happy to talk to students most of the cases. So
exactly. When I remember when I was a student, I would just go to booths with a little business card. And I know a lot of you have those business cards that say aspiring cosmetic chemist or student. And it's so great to just hand those out and be like, I'm just giving you my card. If you have any opportunities, internships, any entry-level positions, please let me know. I'd be interested. And you just hand it, and people are so receptive to that. And networking is extremely important. So we actually wanted to talk a little bit. We are two examples of getting into the industry in completely different ways. So we kind of wanted to talk about our personal experience because, like we've said, people get into this industry in a multitude of ways. There's no one way to get into it. I did more of the traditional, if you would want to say that, right? It's because I knew I wanted to be a cosmetic chemist from a very, very young age. So due to that, I really, really focused on my education in order to become a cosmetic chemist. So I graduated with a biochemistry degree from my bachelor's, and then immediately started going into the master's programs that were available at the time for cosmetic science. Like I said, it has changed so much, which is great. At that time, there weren't that many. So I did go to the University of Cincinnati for their online program with Dr. Wickett over there for their cosmetic science master's. And that is a 2-year program. Within that 2-year program, though, I also got a master's of education, crazy enough. And the reason why I did that is because I knew that something's important to me is cosmetic science education, really, and being able to teach it. I think with science, the biggest thing this society is lacking is science communicators, right? It's good science communication. So I knew that that was something that was very important to me. And getting a background in education, a formal background in education, was helping me develop what I wanted to do in my future. Additionally, though, with that, as we said, the cosmetic science program at the University of Cincinnati can be online or it can be in person. I did the online, and when I graduated from there, I realized that I needed a little bit more hands-on experience because I wasn't previously working in the industry. I didn't have an internship. I didn't have a job in the industry while I was working in there. I was actually working as a science teacher, a high school science teacher. So I knew that I wanted to actually kind of have a program that gave me a little bit more hands-on training. And I found a great program actually in Europe. So I was going to go to Europe. It was like amazing, right? I went to ASIPCA, which is the EFCM program, which is a great program. Like I said, 1 year in France, 1 year in Italy. And what that allowed me to do is be in a laboratory pretty much all day long, 5 days a week for a year, where I was gaining those hard laboratory skills that I didn't have and those formulation skills. But with that as well, it has a business side of it. And this is continuously growing, and it's great. Back in the day, a lot of scientists, a lot of science programs didn't have a business component, but that is so essential to your growth. And so I knew I needed a little bit more of a business background as well. So this program is great because it was allowed me to do both business and science and learn from there. And so due to all that education, I was like, oh my God, I have 4 master's degrees. What am I going to do next, right? So that's when I finally went into the industry after that many years of school. And that is when I finally actually got a job in the industry, which is crazy to think. But I have been at my current job for 5 years now. And I actually started as an intern there, right? So that was the great thing about it, is that I started as an intern for 6 months. I had a contract to be a 6-month intern. And when those 6 months were over, they hired me on. And that was amazing. And I've been there ever since due to that. And it was great because I was able to gain that knowledge of being an intern. And then because the fact that I was there, they hired me on, they liked me. So it was a really good opportunity for me. And that is actually where I've been. So my background is a little bit more traditional in the sense of I really, really focused my education and pretty much everything up to that to hit my goal of being a formulator. That's what I love to do. I love being a cosmetic chemist. It's my passion, it's my love, and that's how I've entered into that field and that career. But Dr. Baki over here had a little bit of a different
background, yes. So I was also interested in sciences, I think since I was like 7 or 8, and I'm from Hungary, so we did not have cosmetic science training, but I just loved pharmacies, to be honest. I was going to a pharmacy. Pharmacies back there look more like independent pharmacies here. The uniform is white, everything's glass and marble, and we do make a lot of extemporaneous products. So we do make compounding, if you will, or formulations in the back for patients. And so you could smell, you step in, you smell peppermint oil and all those great things. And so when we were going with my mom, I'm like, I'm going to be a pharmacist. This is what I want to do. So I went to pharmacy school. And as I was doing my rotations, I found out that I don't like the retail aspect of things. I don't like being there and just dispensing the medications and filling the prescriptions. I like being in the back and working on the formulations. And so I got involved in research. And when I finished pharmacy school, I decided to get more involved and do a PhD after R&D. And so I knew I had a lot of formulation training. So I knew that that was my passion. So I just wanted to get more education in that. So I got my PhD in pharmaceutics, and then I sort of did a career twist a little bit, if you will, because I came over to the United States and was at the right place at the right time, I guess, when the cosmetic science program in Toledo was starting. So I got involved with all of that, and I did a lot of continuing education training, a lot of webinars, a lot of reading books, just to understand when you come from the pharma industry, your mindset is a little bit different. The regulations, the way they would select ingredients and a lot of different things. So I really needed to spend some time, and it was self-driven for a long time before we started teaching and offering the courses and things like that. So, and now I work for 10 years. I've been in Toledo educating. So I'm more of a professor. I teach 7 courses. Some of those are lectures, some of those are labs, some of those are research components. I do enjoy that, being with the students, but I also do research in the lab with mostly undergraduate students, but I always have a couple of master's students. So I do enjoy that research side of things, looking at, research questions that nobody has really looked at or looked at from another perspective. Then I also do a lot of advising, professional advising for students, career advising, job search, internship search. So I do see students going into different directions and try to advise them on what would be the best pathway for their own career goals, where they see themselves being in 5 years, how to achieve that with their skill set, with their passion, with their own limitations that they may have, to sort of establish a plan of study, as we call it, that makes sense for the students. So the degree in Toledo can be tailored a little bit, so students can take different courses up to a certain extent. So some students minor in business, some students minor in sustainability, some students just do more sciencey stuff. So I've been working with students a lot. I don't work as a chemist per se in the industry, but I still do a lot of research. And so I do involve a lot of the students in those research projects and try to get research results obviously published and also presented at meetings. So if you go to various meetings in the nation, you might see our students standing at a poster and presenting their results at those places. So yes, we have very different backgrounds, but if you interviewed people on the floor, you will see that a lot of different people had a lot of different backgrounds, and that's all right. Yep. You just sort of have to figure out how to get there.
And like what Dr. Baki was saying, there's no right way. There's no wrong way. And you guys are ahead of the game because you are here. You are interested. You're coming to these lectures. You're meeting people, you're networking, but there is no way, and that way can also change, and your goals could change. So it's just really important to note that at the end of the day, cosmetic science and this industry is a large growing industry, and whatever you will do in the industry is important And whatever you'll do will be exactly what you want to do at the end of the day.
Yes.
And that's it. So does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
If you want to know what the life of a PhD student is like, you can talk to Ines, who's one of our PhD students, is right now interning with FDA, but she's here at the meeting and in the corner over there. And I don't think it's 4 to 5 years. I got my PhD in 4 years, but it almost killed me. It's more like 5 years. So unless you're very lucky with your research. So, and, one of the things that I talk to my students, when I used to have more students, I would go to a meeting with 12 students and they'd all be sitting at the same table. And I'd go over there and say, no, don't do that. Spread yourselves out. And the ones who were most successful at finding jobs were the ones who would come back from the FCC meeting with a few business cards. And after email became available, that's how old I am, they would start emailing the people they met. And they would keep in touch with them. And some of them ended up then with very good jobs from doing that. So, so that's the key thing is networking. And the SEC has been very good, especially Ohio Valley, with now our students can go to the meetings for free. We were talking about the web. Sujitra, who's here probably at our table, I think she's the webmaster for the Ohio Valley chapter as a student. So our students get very involved with the chapter, and that's really important.
And that's a great point. If you have business cards, or even if you don't have your business cards, you can take photos of people's badges and follow up with them. Send them an email, connect with them on LinkedIn. You want them to remember you because they meet a lot of other people out there. They may not remember your name or face. Follow up with them on a LinkedIn message or an email and tell them who you are, you talked, what did you talk about, just to establish that relationship. So that's a great point to follow up with those folks.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you.